Shalom. First and foremost, call halal yamla Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Harachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone that I learned this truth from, and also peace and salutations to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And as you see the title of this article that I have here on the screen from the People's Voice.tv, Gill unveils global digital enslavement blueprint. Okay, your identity, bank account, and body must be one. Okay, and as it goes into, it says, speaking before an audience of world leaders and tech oligarchs, self-appointed global health Cesar Gill openly called for the total fusion of biometric digital IDs, personal bank accounts, payment systems, agricultural surveillance, and centralized health records, framing it as essential progress for humanity's, quote, safety and health. You see, with all the problems that are around the world, okay, when dealing with crime, all right, diseases, nature and different weather effects, corruption, all right, confusion everywhere, political instability, political turmoil, wars, rumors of war, economic woes, with all these problems that that are throughout the earth, which Esau, Edom has a hand in all the problems that's all around the world. Okay, like the scripture speaks about Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Okay, all these problems around the earth, you best believe in some way, shape, or form, Esau, Edom, starting with these elite banking families, have their hand in all the problems around the world. Okay, and so here we are in a time where now Esau, as he knows that he has only a short time left to rule and to pretty much attempt to get the birthright back, now he's getting ready to present, all right, AI and pseudoscience and technology as the ultimate solution for all the world's problems. Get everybody on a digital grid via some form of digital identification, okay, digital footprint, right? And of course, we know this is all going to lead to the MOTB, the microchip, okay, being put inside of people's right hands or their foreheads, pursuant to Revelation 13, verse 16 on down. All right, and Esau is going to push his AI, pseudoscience, and an MOTB microchip as, all right, as as it says right here, a form of safety and health. Okay, and we know what that correlates to in the scriptures. All right, in the book of 1 Thessalonians 5. All right, 1 Thessalonians 5, as the Apostle Paul is speaking on, okay, the coming of the day of the Lord in this chapter, verse 3. 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 3. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So as Esau, Edom, all right, as he's pretty much led the whole entire world, all right, to a big ball of confusion, chaos, corruption, all right, taking away peace from the earth, destroying the animals, destroying nature, destroying the water, the food, okay, destroying marriage, the relationship between men and women. As Esau's pretty much gone throughout the four corners of the earth and destroyed and corrupt, any and everything that the Lord made conducive to life. Now he's getting ready to come, all right, with this, left hand peace and safety to all the world's problems through what? Pseudoscience, technology, okay, left hand power, signs, and lying wonders, as it goes into in 2 Thessalonians 2nd chapter, okay, to do the working of Satan, all right, to fulfill it all via his NWO agenda, via the MOTB, microchip. You see that? And pretty much as this article is going into. Okay, Gill Bates, who is one of the other main faces of Esau's NWO agenda. Okay, because and mind you, back in 2020. Okay, this guy right here, Gill Bates, was one of the main faces that was put upon national television daily and weekly, telling people to put a mask on their face, and he was one of the other main people that you saw on TV, pushing telling everybody what they had to put inside of their bodies in order to be safe, healthy, right? And mind you, this guy has pretty much he's not a medical expert, but yet he was allowed to go on national TV back in 2020 and tell everybody, okay, tell everybody around the world, everybody around the country, Babylon the Great, okay, what they should put inside of their bodies in order to be healthy or remain healthy. You see that? And of course we all know that that 2020 was just a test run for what Esau really has coming down the pipe. As a matter of fact, even this guy right here, Gill Bates, back in 2020, 2021 ish, he basically spoke about the next demic. Okay, and as we've seen as of lately over this past week, you have this whole hantavirus thing supposedly going around. Okay, you had a particular cruise ship, American cruise ship, where a handful of uh, uh, people boarding the ship got infected or tested positive for the for the hantavirus or whatever, and then now is on his way to the states, or has already made it to the states of you know, but whatever the case. Okay, now they're talking about that can lead to the next endemic, right? Lockdowns. Okay, even at this guy Dr. Fauci, he's popped back up, telling people to mask up again, and pretty much Esau's running the same playbook that he ran back in 2020. Okay, and you best believe this guy right here that you see on the screen, Gill Bates. Okay, he's gonna be back in the limelight again. All right, on TV, on different platforms. Okay, telling people what they should do, telling people what they should put inside their bodies. And you best believe this guy Gill Bates, as you see here on the screen, all right, is going to be one of the main faces that's going to be at the forefront of pushing the microchip. Okay, pushing the microchip. All right, as a form of what? Peace and safety. All right, the solution to all of people's health issues. Okay, the food crisis, financial woes, political woes, confusion. All right, and mind you, this is not medical information. All right, but I'm just going into the news. All right, going into what's going on in the world. It says right here, Bates, Gill Bates praised India's digital public infrastructure as the model the world must follow, declaring it superior even to wealthy nations in its efficiency at tracking and controlling populations. And you see, this guy Gill Bates right here, he's praised India as it went into for pretty much setting up some form of digital infrastructure, tracking and tracing the citizens right through technological digital means. Most likely AI is probably merged within the system as well. And mind you, okay, a few years ago, this guy K. Schwab, the other former head of the WEF, he came out and said that China was pretty much the prototype of ultimately what the elites want all countries around the world to do. Okay, because over there in China, you have 6G technology out there in China. Okay, you have AI through the roof over there in China. Okay, biometric systems, facial recognition. All right, out there in China, pretty much no matter where you go, there's about, several cameras, watching you. Okay, taking pictures of your face, using AI to recognize you, recognize your face and identify you. Right, you even have a form of a social credit system going on out there in China. Right, and pretty much when you look at the people out there in China, they don't have the rights and the liberties that people over here in Babylon, America have. Free speech rights, Second Amendment rights, okay, rights of privacy, and so on and so forth. And again, this guy K. Schwab, the former head of the WEF, okay, pretty much referred to China as the prototype of pretty much what the elites want all nations to pretty much do in the near future. All right, and it says again right here. It says Gates, Slakia Bates praised India's digital public infrastructure as the model the world must follow, declaring it superior even to wealthy nations in its efficiency at tracking and controlling populations. All right, then it goes into pretty much states a quote from him. Says another place that India leads, but that all of you can be involved in. All right, so on and so forth. You can read that on your own, and then it has this video right here, which, as a matter of fact, now this particular video that you see right here, which I'm not gonna play it, but you can actually, all right, this exact clip that's right here on the screen that's on this page. If you go on my page on my shorts, okay, the one and only YouTube short that I have on my page is a pretty much this video right here, okay, that I recorded from another website on another app. But pretty much if you want to watch this video, so to speak, watch this little clip by Gill Bates right here, you can actually find it on my channel on my shorts. Okay, where he pretty much talked about a digital system, all right, monitoring health, okay, linking farmers with this whole digital system that Esau wants to establish throughout the earth, right? And then it goes into right here. Says he continued describing with visible satisfaction how this quote unquote foundation of total digital slavery is already expanding into every corner of human life. Yeah, and right now, okay, Esau's gradually easing society into the digital slavery that he wants to put all humanity under. Okay, you gotta people have access to AI on their phones. Okay, people pretty much nowadays are taking counsel with AI and things like ChatGPT more than they have actual human to human interactions. Asking AI to how to improve their health. Okay, how to improve their fitness. Asking AI how to damn near take care of their pets or raise their children, or how to have a happy marriage or happy relationship, this that, and the third. Okay, all these things are gradually, all right, forwarding people into depending on this digital infrastructure that Esau is setting up in the earth, to where very soon, when there's gonna be some type of major cyber attack or internet outage, black swan event, whatever it may be, that's gonna cause the whole entire energy grid to shut down, the internet shut down, electrical grid to shut down. A lot of people that depend on all this technology heavily, that's fully engulfed in it, okay, fully dealing with all this AI and so on and so forth. Hey, when these things get shut down, Okay, along with, food getting taken away, famine. People are gonna lose it. People are gonna be running and on their hands and knees begging, okay, the governments of Esau, Edom to restore all these things back, right? And be willing to do any and everything that they can, okay, to beg their governments to to give them access to all these things again, including what, giving up their bodies, taking the MOTB, all right, the microchip. You see that, and that's exactly the condition that the elites of Esau Edom want all these people in. Why you think, okay, especially from 2020 up until now, you've been seeing people losing jobs left and right, the cost of living going up. Okay, the poor continue to get even more poor. The middle class is pretty much wiped out, right? And at the same time, the rich and the super rich have been getting even more richer. All right, you think that's happening by coincidence or by accident? No. Okay, that's being all done on purpose. Put everybody into one big squeeze, all right, a cattle squeeze, to where when pretty much when the elites of Esau Edom, okay, have the green light to pretty much shut everything down and shut everything off, bring forth a famine, right? Perplexity, okay, all these people that you see on the internet, on TikTok, complaining about the cost of living and the price of rent, gas, food, and all these things is catching all this hell. All right, these people are going to be ready for the taking, okay, the digital taking, the digital enslavement that Esau and these technocrats are, building up right before their eyes, with all these AI data centers and AI this and AI that, robots, okay, automation. All right, this is all what is leading to. Okay, and again, you best believe, guys like this, Gill Bates and Peter Thiel, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, they're going to be the faces that's going to be put at the forefront of this digital technological slavery, all right, that ultimately the elites of Esau Edom want all humanity under. All right, because real quick, as the scripture says in Habakkuk 2:5, it says, yea, matter of fact, 2:4, it says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. Talking about Esau Edom ultimately. Okay, because we know the prophet Habakkuk, he was around during the time when the ancient Neo-Babylonian Empire was in power, all right, under Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, seeing the Babylonians get proud, seeing Nebuchadnezzar being lifted up in pride. Well, guess what? Here we are today in this current day, and Babylon the Great, all right, and who rules over this modern day Babylon? Esau Edom, the so-called white man. And it says, Habakkuk 2:4, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Okay, Esau Edom, his soul is lifted up via what? His pride, his arrogancy. Okay, he's lifted up in his pride, and he's not upright. Okay, Esau, he's the wicked. Okay, he's the chosen seed of Satan on the earth. All right, they're his elite banking families, and those that rub elbows with them are nothing but a bunch of, the satanic psychopaths and degenerates and base men and women, okay, who have no regard for, human life, okay, children, no regard for nature, no regard for none of the Lord's creation, all right, because all they're aiming to do is destroy the Lord's creation, right, and ultimately recreate man and woman and child and nature itself and animals into their own left-hand image. You see that? Recreate creation itself, recreate life itself through carnal left-hand satanic means. It says, behold, his soul which lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Because we're coming to a time when Esau is getting ready to crash out. Because again, he knows that he has but a short time left to fulfill this agenda, right? He's getting ready to come down with all manner of great wrath because he's being caught out and exposed and made bare, left and right. The whole entire world is waking up to the fact that he's a problem, all right, and he's made small among the heathen. There's a shameful spewing all over his glory, Okay, so he's getting ready to come down great wrath against any and everybody that's against his NWO agenda, especially the men of the Lord. Okay, those of us that are, preaching this gospel and singing a new song, okay, which is an everlasting gospel that we preach throughout the four corners of the earth, that that's in direct opposition against his entire system. Okay, this beast system, America, NATO, and EU, the image of the system. Okay, the ways, the philosophies. Okay, the thought process of this whole entire system, and as well speaking out against the mark of this beast system, which is the micro C up, the MOTB. Okay, and all this talk of digital system, biometric systems. Okay, it's all leading to the MOTB. It says, verse 5, Habakkuk 2, verse 5, yea, also because he transgressed by wine, all right, his doctrines and philosophies, right, he is a proud man, okay, and of course that speaks to none other than Esau, Edom. It says, neither keepeth at home, all right, always going throughout the four corners of the earth, waging war, colonizing, exploiting, corrupting, right? Pushing his dollar, pushing his democracy, pushing his alphabet agenda. All right. It says, who enlargeth his desire as hell, meaning destruction. Okay. And is as death, and cannot be satisfied. All right. Everywhere Esau, Edom goes, death follows. All right. That's why the scripture says in Malachi 1 verse 4, Esau, Edom will be known as the border of death. Meaning what? Anywhere Esau goes throughout the earth or rules at throughout the earth, okay, death springs up. All right, evils multiply, like it speaks of in the book of First Maccabees, the first chapter. When Alexander and the Greeks came into power, evils were multiplied in the earth. Well, guess what? We're in a Greco-Roman system all over again. America, which is also known as Babylon the Great according to Bible prophecy. All right, and guess what? Evils have multiplied throughout the earth all over again. Okay, but it at an even higher level. You see, it says, and is as death and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. You see that? And what does that speaks to? Okay, that shows that basically our forefather Habakkuk, he saw the NWO agenda. Okay, which during his lifetime, the Babylonians attempted to, the ancient Neo-Babylonians attempted to, pretty much gather all the surrounding nations at that time under their vibration, serve their gods and serve their different idols and their pseudoscience and their sorcery, right? And Esau Edom is doing that same thing all over again in this time. Trying to get all nations to follow after his image, right? His way of thinking. Okay, get everybody on board with his NWO agenda and the MOTB, right? And mind you as well, when you go to Genesis 10 and you read about Nimrod, right? Genesis 10 and 8, it says, and Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. All right. When you look up the name Nimrod in the Hebrew, it means rebellion. All right. So Nimrod was the first, pretty much the first tyrant to rise up in the earth after the flood. Okay, to lead all humanity during this time in a worldwide rebellion against Yahweh Shema Shai. Building up the Tower of Babel and so on and so forth, right? It says, verse 9, he was a mighty hunter before the Lord, okay? And of course, not only was Nimrod a mighty hunter of, animals and, wild beasts and, out in the field, but also as well, he was a mighty hunter of souls, okay? A tyrant. When you go into Nimrod in various research, it says, wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod the mighty hunter before the Lord. Verse 10, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. Okay, Babel in Hebrew, Babal means confusion. All right, because pretty much when you go into the further into the story of the Tower of Babel in Genesis the 11th chapter, pretty much all nations came under one philosophy, all right, under one mindset, all right, to make a name for themselves, and it ended up it resulted in being one big ball of confusion. The Lord confounded all the languages of the heathen, except for the Hebrew, of course. All right, the Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew, survived the Tower of Babel. Hence why our forefathers were able to stick to the righteous way. Throughout the Tower of Babel. Okay, but the Lord confounded all of the rest of the languages of the heathen nations, which resulted in what? Great confusion amongst the heathen. All right, and along with, and as well, the Tower of Babel was also filled with confusion in the form of all the different idols and philosophies and deities that was worshipped during in the region of Babel at this time. Okay, again, just like here in America, Babylon the Great. You have all, pretty much all, different peoples from all nations throughout the earth here in America, okay, with their own cultures, their own religions, their own idols, their own philosophies and doctrines and upbringings, okay. And this place is just one big pot of confusion, okay, one big mixing of confusion, all right. And it says, Genesis 10 and 10, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel and Erech and Akkad and Calneh in the land of Shinar. And pretty much when you look up these names in the blue letter in the Hebrew, all of these names that is just listed, all right, Babel, Erech, Akkad, Calneh, they all tell stories to the meaning of these cities that Nimrod was building. Okay, all these names have particular meanings that kind of gives you insight on how things were going on as Nimrod was building his kingdom, Babel, basically. All right, and it says verse 11, out of that land went forth Ashur, okay, Assyria, and builded Nineveh, okay, which Nineveh was the capital of the ancient Assyrian kingdom, okay, founded by Nimrod, as we see. And it says in the city Rehoboth and Calah, all right, which you can look those two names up. And it says verse 12, and Rezin between Nineveh and Calah, the same is a great city. Okay, so this particular city called Rezin, as I said, was a great city. And when you look up this name Rezin in the Hebrew, Strong's H7449, Rasan, and it means bridle. Okay, bridle. And when you go into the root word, Strong's H7448, Rasan, it means something that restrains, halter, jaw. Okay, of restraint, thrown off, jaw. Okay, and pretty much a bridle is a pretty much like the muzzle that you will put on a horse. Okay, to be able to control the horse as you're riding it. You pull one side to make the horse go either left or right, okay, or you pull both sides to make the horse stop, or you kind of like, whip or jerk, both of the straps to make the horse go, or make the horse walk or run faster forward, right? But pretty much a bridle, okay, is like like a muzzle that you put upon an animal, that you put upon the mouth of the animal, in particular a horse, for example, okay, for the purpose of what? Control. See that? So one of the one of the purposes of Nimrod building, okay, this particular city Rezin right here, all right, which means bridle in the Hebrew, was for the purpose of what? Control. Controlling the population at that time, controlling the mindset of people. More than likely, Nimrod, the Cushites, okay, who ruled over Babylon during this time after the flood, More than likely, they had their sorcery, their magic, their pseudoscience, their doctrines, and their philosophies to get people on board. To help build Babel and help forward rebellion throughout the earth. And likewise, Esau Edom has these things in his modern day. Okay, he has particular sorcery and magic and different ways of galvanizing people's minds to be on board with this NWO agenda via the media, right? Or these different psyops that Esau's doing throughout the earth. Okay, the so-called viruses or black swan events, mass shootings. Okay, propaganda. You see that? And as well, we know Esau is also going to come with a major famine, all right, as well as energy lockdowns to also get people on board with this NWO agenda as well. But all for the purpose of what? Control. Okay, controlling the populations and ultimately controlling people's minds and controlling people's souls, right? Because that's another thing that the scripture speaks about in regards to Babylon the Great in Revelation 18 chapter. Talks about how Babylon had slaves, okay, as well as what? The souls of men. All right, and how does Esau Edom ultimately want to put okay, have people's souls, all right, via the MOTB, this digital infrastructure that he's building, okay, right before our eyes. And it goes into back in this article, it says pretty much, as this article goes into, Gill Bates unveils global digital enslavement blueprint. Your identity, bank account, and body must become one. Now, why, why would the elites of Esau Edom want to have all those things, okay, as one, as one being or one thing, linking your physical body to your bank account, okay, your identity. What does that ultimately all speak to when we look at things that are happening throughout the earth? Okay, this is all a part of the fourth industrial revolution, which, okay, when you look it up, right, what is the fourth industrial revolution? All right, it says this Google AI overview. It says the fourth industrial revolution, all right, represents the current rapid transition toward cyber physical systems. Okay, cyber physical systems fusing digital, biological, and physical worlds. See that? Fusing digital, biological, and physical worlds. Now, mind you, all right, what does this word fusing mean? All right, the word fusing from Oxford Dictionary of English, it means to join or blend to form a single entity. See that? To join or blend to form a single entity. All right, that's what the word fuse or fusing means, right? And so, as it says again, the fourth industrial revolution represents the current rapid, all right, rapid, Operation Warp Speed, right? Represents the current rapid transition toward cyber physical systems, fusing, okay, joining or blending digital, biological, and physical worlds. Which, what is biological? The study of the body, okay? It says coined by WEF founder K. Schwab in 2016. It is defined by AI, all right, and then IoT, which stands for Internet of Things, okay, robotics and 3D printing, shifting from computers, all right, which is the third industrial revolution, to interconnected autonomous systems, all right. Then it goes more into it. AI is mentioned in there, Internet of Things, cyber physical systems, all right, big data and cloud computing, advanced robotics. Matter of fact, it says right here, biological innovations, advancements in genetic engineering and neurotechnology. Okay, what is neurotechnology? Neuro means brain. Okay, linking your brain with technology. All right, and as well, all right, engineering your genetics, your genes. Now, what exactly could Esau Edom come up with to do just these things? Linking your physical body with machines or with technology, including AI. Okay, the MOTB, a microcia. You see that? You know, and mind you, how could all these things that we're looking at right here? You mean to tell me John the Baptist didn't see this? Okay, he most certainly saw all these things. Okay, and warned us of it. All right, in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, which is only given to those that have eyes to see and ears to hear via the Holy Spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay, all these things all tie into what John the Revelator saw in Revelation the 13th chapter. Okay, all leading to the MOTB system, right? Your bank account, your identity, as well as your physical body, all being one. Okay, and we know Esau Edom ultimately wants to recreate man into his left hand image. Put a new identity on mankind. Man, women, children, all via what? This MOTB system. Okay. And there was another part in this article. Let's see. It says right here, once your biometric digital ID is linked to your bank account and payment systems, okay, and exactly, and again, biometric means a measure of the body. So what bodily measurement could possibly link your bank account? Okay, could possibly link your body to your bank account, as well as various forms of payment systems, right? The MOTB, microcia, that no man may buy or sell, right, save he that hath the mark in his right hand or in his forehead, right? It says whether by skipping. I'm gonna read it again. It says once your biometric digital ID is linked to your bank account and payment systems, refusal to comply, whether by skipping a mandated jab, exceeding your personal carbon allowance. That's another big thing that's being talked about on the left hand side. Reducing carbon out of the earth, which this guy Gill Bates is one of the other main talking heads. All right, that's constantly talking about that. Reducing carbon out of the earth and net zero and all these things. Was that's ultimately all code word for chopping down on the other population. Because mind you as well, this guy Gill Bates, there's TED talks that he's done years ago, okay, years ago, where he openly talked about asking the population, all right, if you get what if you understand what I'm saying, cutting down on the other population, right? And it says in this whole talk of carbon, reducing carbon out of the earth, it's just another code just code on the left hand side for further accelerating chopping down the population. Because mind you, a good percentage of the human body is made of carbon. Right, all living organisms are made of carbon all throughout the earth. You see that? So this is just more code for issuing forth more death throughout the earth. Hey, because like we just read in Habakkuk 2:5. Matter of fact, let's read it again. Habakkuk 2:5. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death. See that? And is as death. Okay, trying to reduce carbon out of the earth. All right, chopping down the population. Okay, issuing forth all these jabs that's doing nothing but messing people up. Okay, sending people back to the spirit world or permanently injuring people. All right, and again, this is not medical information. All right, but yeah, and this devil, all right, Esau, Edom, he'll never be satisfied until he has gathered all nations unto himself and heapeth all people unto himself. Via what? This his NWO agenda that he's trying to set up on the earth in these latter days via the MOTB system. It says once going back to the article, it says once your biometric digital ID is linked to your bank account and payment systems refuses to comply, whether by skipping a mandated jab, exceeding your personal carbon allowance, okay, if you've been caught eating too much meat, right, lab grown meat, or traveling too much, driving too much, right, it says, or failing to update your health records could mean instant financial suffocation. All right, no payment, no benefits, no access. Yeah, and in this as well right here speaks to social credit system, where if you've been caught doing things that violate the NWO agenda, whether it be you got caught eating too much meat, or traveling too much, or traveling too far, or doing this, that, and the third outside of the regulations of the NWO, that can have a negative effect on your social credit score. Okay, and you won't be allowed to do this, that, and the third, right? Certain payments will be taken from you for for a certain period of time until you get your act together, so to speak, right? And it says right here, it says Bates made it clear this is not optional, meaning what is going to be mandatory. It's going to be mandatory to link your physical body with your bank account, okay, your different forms of payments, all right, and all these other things that you need and you use to go about your daily life, right? And again, what could possibly link your physical body to all these said things and more? Okay, a micro C of the MOTB, all right, and that's what all of this is all leading to, the MOTB, all right, exactly what our forefather John the Revelator, John the Apostle saw in the Revelation of 13th chapter, all right. It says right here, Bates made it clear that this is not optional. It is the future he and his allies intend to impose worldwide, with India positioned as the shining example and testing ground. The merging of biometric surveillance, okay, we know Esau Edom want to ultimately surveil under the skin, as this guy Noah Yuval Harari said. He talked about, you can find various videos on the internet where he talked about surveillance under the skin. It says the merging of biometric surveillance, financial control, agricultural oversight, and perpetual health monitoring is sold as benevolence. Yeah, as peace and safety. You see that? This is all a part of Esau's NWO agenda. Okay, to have everybody's physical body, linked to their bank accounts, their health records, medical records. Okay, and this is all going to be done under the technocracy, okay, / NWO agenda that the elites of Esau Edom are looking to establish on earth. Okay, all fulfilled in the MOTB, Revelation 13 verse 16. You see that? And mind you, as we just read a little further down this article, this is the future that guys like Gill, Bates, his allies, and ultimately the elites of Esau Edom want to impose worldwide. So any Israelite out there that's still teaching that Christianity is the MOTB, or that anything, all right, that anything is the MOTB outside of the micro CIP and all this digital AI infrastructure that we see going on throughout the earth. Okay, any Israelite that's still not linking all these things to what John the Revelator saw in Revelation the 13th chapter, then hey, you're not a man of the Lord. Okay, and you're not singing a new song. You see that? Because only the true men of Yahweh Bashima Shai are going into these things and linking it to Bible prophecy and linking it to what our forefather John the Revelator saw in Revelation the 13th chapter. The true men of the Lord are speaking on these things, starting with the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone, down to the least of us that are of the hopeful elect. You see that? This is our job. This is at the forefront, or rather, shall I say, one of the main things that's at the forefront of the everlasting gospel throughout the earth. Okay, this is all a part of the new song right here that the true men of the Lord will be singing and preaching throughout the four corners of the earth. You see that? With the name of the Father and the Son, Yahweh Bashim Shai, written in their foreheads. Okay, Lord will not be of their number. All right, but yeah, this is where we are in prophecy. Okay, this is the mindset and the agenda of the left hand, forwarded by the biblical Edomites, the so-called white man. Starting with his top elite banking families, and you see guys like Gill right here. Although he is a higher level devil, okay, around the world, but at the same time, he's just the face of a whole entire network of Edomites, upper echelon Edomites that's really behind the scenes, okay, forwarding this NWO agenda. Guys like Gill Bates, Elon Musk, and Sam Altman, Peter Thiel, right, Larry Ellison, and all these other technocrats. Okay, Noah Yuval Harari. They're not the main ones behind all these things. They're just the faces, okay, and the prophets on the left hand side, okay, telling you and coming forward with, the true agenda and the true mindset of the elites of Esau Edom that they ultimately work for. You see that? They're just, faces of the workers of the insurrection of iniquity, as it speaks of in the book of Psalm 64. Okay? And let me just get this. In the book of Psalms 140, all right, prayer for protection against the wicked, all right, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, the border of wickedness. It says, and this is a song by our forefather King David, all right, Psalms 140 and verse 8. It says, grant not, O Lord, Yahweh Bashim Shai, the desires of the wicked, further not his wicked device, lest they exalt themselves, Selah. You see that? And Esau Edom, through his NWO agenda, the MOTB, his technocracy, AI, and all this pseudoscience that he's trying to establish throughout the earth. Okay, he's doing all these things to exalt himself, to get the birthright back, and to ultimately, play God on the earth. Okay, controlling all humanity, controlling people's thoughts, controlling people's access to to buying and selling and food and resources. All right, all through his left hand satanic means, right? And our forefather King David right here is praying to Yahweh Shema Shai, for the Lord to grant not the desires of the wicked Esau Edom, okay, nor further his wicked devices. Yeah, because if Esau Edom is able to further his wicked devices, his pseudoscience, his AI and his idols, right? Then they, as Yahweh spoke of in Matthew 24, no flesh should be saved. You see that? Everything will be through. Okay? Esau would, pretty much try to wipe out every single Israelite off the face of the earth, especially the men of the Lord. Okay? And the rest of the elect of the nation of Israel. He would pretty much recreate mankind into his left hand image, recreate animals and nature itself into his left hand image, cut down all the trees, destroy the air, destroy the water, right? And pretty much recreate all creation. Okay? And as our forefather King David right here is praying to Yahweh Shemel Shai, for the Lord to grant not this man's desires, okay, nor let him further and continue his wicked devices, and ultimately get the victory. Lest what? Lest they exalt themselves and get and be able to forge their own birthright again, okay, remain in their blessing and upset prophecy. Hey, but we know at the end of the day, the word of Yahweh Bashmal Shai cannot be upset. Okay, like Yahweh Shai said in the Gospels, the scripture cannot be broken. Okay, it's already written before the foundation of the heaven and earth that the Lord is going to judge Esau, Edom, destroy his whole entire agenda, destroy this beast system, his image, his mark, okay, all these idols and wicked inventions throughout the earth. And ultimately, Yahweh Shai is the one who's going to get the victory, okay, over all these things, and be the ones to destroy all these things to fulfill the will of the Heavenly Father Yahweh. And we, the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, Lord will not be able to number. We're going to get the victory over this beast system, his image and his mark, in the NWO agenda through Yahweh Shai Mashiach, all right, by being covered by his blood. Lord will not be able to number, all right. So, yeah, you could pretty much, read more into this article on your own, all right. But pretty much with that being said, Lord willing, this video is edifying, and until next time, Shalom.